The 2025 NFL Draft is over, but coming up on today's show, we're still going to talk about this Eagles draft class hauled in by Howie Roseman, and coming up specifically, Mel Kiper's draft grade for the Philadelphia Eagles. And with that, we transition to this. If you like what Howie Roseman did by drafting these players as part of this Eagles 2025 class, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If you don't like the players who the Eagles selected, I want you to comment why. And with that, let's run it up and start the show. And a happy Monday to everybody. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. Hope you all had a great weekend and your weeks are off to a great start. As I mentioned off the rip, we're going to react to Mel Kiper Jr.'s draft grades for the Philadelphia Eagles. And as a refresher, you take a look at the players who are making their way to the city of brotherly love from the college ranks. The Eagles moving up one spot in the first round to 31st overall to take linebacker edge rusher combo Jihad Campbell. A lot of people look at that as a great value selection for Philadelphia. I agree, and I'm very intrigued by the versatility, and I think that he can end up being a fantastic player for the Birds. The Eagles stay in round two with the final pick in that round at 64 overall. Little bit of a reach here, in my opinion, to take Texas safety Andrew Mukuba, but I do like the player. He's going to remind a lot of people of C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the ability to make plays on the ball, the versatility, plays bigger than his size, has 4.4 speed, and he has that type of spirit that Gardner-Johnson brought to the Eagles defense, and I think the Eagles are going to miss that. Can they replace it, though, with Makuba, who was a very good player throughout his college career? Ty Robinson, another really good value pick for the Eagles here. He is massive, and at nearly 290 pounds, he ran a sub-4.9 40-yard dash. You can use him as an interior defensive lineman. You can use him as a defensive end, and I think that the Eagles might be able to use him in some special offensive packages if the NFL bans the brotherly shove. McWilliams, a cornerback who is a little bit slighter like Andrew Makuba at a UCF, being taken there in round 5. Some injury concerns, but I do think that he has potential to play in the slot. Smael Mondon Jr., the Eagles continue to tap into that Georgia Bulldogs pipeline. I think that he could contribute on special teams right away. Maybe a developmental backer who needs to work on the instincts. Drew Kendall, center, Boston College, all ACC player. Very durable, very experienced with more than 30 college starts. His pops played in the NFL, so you see the NFL bloodlines there. The Eagles call themselves a quarterback factory, and so they draft Kyle McCord, St. Joe's Prep, won a state championship in Pennsylvania there. He is from New Jersey, and he's one of my favorite quarterbacks in this class. He'll probably compete with DTR to be QB3. I don't think he's ready to be QB2, and I think Tanner McKee is a really good player. Myles Hinton, offensive tackle out of Michigan. I was so-so with that pick. He's huge, but he needs to play up to that size. I love the selection of Cameron Williams, the offensive tackle out of Texas in round 6. If you return to Texas next year, this upcoming season for 2025, and if he played well, if he stayed healthy, he is coming off a knee surgery, he could have gotten first-round buzz. And so this is a player who reminds me a little bit of Mekhi Becton because he's massive. He's going to have to work on his nutrition, his diet, his body. At one point a couple of years ago, he was over 370 pounds at his pro day. He weighed in at 330, but a very promising developmental player along the offensive line for Jeff Stoutland. And then Antoine Powell-Ryland. He started his college career at Florida. Then he went to Virginia Tech. Really, really productive as far as TFLs and sacks and forced fumbles the last couple of years. Shorter arms, sometimes that can lead to missed tackles, but he is pretty solid against the run, and he can get after the quarterback. Going back to Mel Kiper here, after my thoughts briefly, Mel Kiper's top needs entering the draft for the Eagles, he listed them as safety, defensive tackle, linebacker, and then surprisingly, wide receiver. You have A.J. Brown, you have Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson. last year in the draft, the Eagles did take Anaya Smith, Johnny Wilson. The jury is still out on those players. They did sign Terrace Marshall, so I kind of disagree with wide receiver there. What I would have included and what I did include was tight end. Mel Kiper did not list a tight end, and the Eagles did not take one in the NFL draft. And so a lot of chatter following draft weekend that maybe Dallas Goedert could return for 2025. He wants a contract extension. The Eagles would like him back, probably lower than the near $12 million cap hit that he has. So we'll see what happens on that front. Now, the thing with this draft for the Eagles is that going into it, Howie Roseman had 8 picks. They came away with 10 players. They didn't have any pressing needs. And so Howie had the luxury and the flexibility to take some chances on some players, which then brings me to what Mel Kiper had to say about this Eagles draft class. A lot of what he had to say, I'll react to it here. He said, I gave the Eagles an A after last year's draft, but no way did I think their top 2 picks, cornerbacks Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, would help power a much improved defense to a Super Bowl title. That's how to target a need and get an instant impact. And you think about what Howie accomplished last year. What a draft for the Birds in 2024. Quinyon Mitchell, really good as an outside corner. Ball skills, speed, so durable. Shut down some of the top wide receivers in the game. He was a starter for a team that won the Super Bowl, that boosted the #1 overall defense at one of the most difficult positions to play and master as a rookie in the NFL at that outside corner spot. The rules are against you. Offenses are very talented these days, and there's so much wide receiver talent. And then you get Cooper DeJean, and you double back on corner in the second round. The Eagles traded up to get him, and out of that slot nickel spot, what a fantastic player who, of course, famously had the pick 6 of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl and baited him into throwing that INT. And then Jalen Hunt really started to come on at the end of last year, especially in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl. I think that he could be a stud, and he's raw. Started his college career as a safety in the Ivy League at Cornell. Then he went to Houston Baptist, played edge rusher, and I think that he's going to be a really good player. And then this year, I think you'll see Will Shipley utilized a little bit more. You saw it in the preseason a year ago. You saw it during his rookie campaign, that long run that he was able to come through with against the Commanders. He has a lot of ability. Back to Kiper here. Howie Roseman went a slightly different direction, however, from corner last year, adding versatile off-ball linebacker Jihad Campbell, who I thought could go in the top 20 picks. Campbell can be a chess piece for defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, getting a handful of snaps on the edge per game. This pick tells me there's some concern about the knee injury Nakobe Dean suffered in January, so Campbell could help fill that void. He's a really solid player. And I know in the last 2 mock drafts that Mel Kiper did, he had Jihad Campbell going to the Eagles. And I love Campbell's versatility. Off-ball linebacker, he has the ability there. Shot out of a cannon, sideline-to-sideline speed, vertical speed as well. Really good athlete. And I said it during the draft. I think that Vic Fangio can use Jihad Campbell as a chess piece. And this screamed Vic Fangio pick. Taking Campbell, I also had noted it was smart, given the uncertainty around Nakobe Dean. He suffered that serious injury in January. Oftentimes, it takes players a long time to come back from that. He's also going into the final year of his deal, and he's been injured a lot throughout his career. This is pretty notable from NFL insider Albert Breer on the Jihad Campbell injury history. Breer said, I love Eagles general manager Howie Roseman. He's done a fantastic job, but I'd say his first-round pick this year, Alabama linebacker Jihad Campbell, is a little like 2 years ago with Jalen Carter. In both cases, there was a reason why the guy was available. With Carter, it was checkered off-field history that Philly felt well qualified to manage. With Campbell, it's his shoulders and knees. Yes, plural on both counts. And again, this is one where the Eagles are more equipped to take on the risk than others because they don't need the pick to hit. Obviously, it would suck if Campbell can't work out. We heard nothing about the knees in the pre-draft, but the shoulders and the knees, possibly a reason and reasons why he fell to the Eagles at 31. back to Kiper here. I mentioned in my Friday night recap how much I like safety Andrew Mukuba, whom Philly got at the end of round 2. He can play the role vacated by the trade of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He hits like a linebacker. And Makuba was my C.J. Gardner-Johnson comp. Before anybody really started to talk about that, we were live, and I'm like, he's going to remind a lot of people of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Deep safety who can make plays on the rock in the pass game, who's instinctual in that way, but he has good feel, good instincts where he can shoot holes and he can make plays against the run. He does have corner size like Gardner-Johnson coming out of Florida, but they both play bigger than their size. They both play physical, and Howie even said it. We can use him as a safety. We can use him in that nickel role. I think the Eagles are going to do that. Clearly, they like safeties who have that type of versatility, and Howie said it himself as well, that Makuba plays an Eagle style of football. Kiper, he says on day 3, offensive tackle Cameron Williams could be a steal if Philly can help him put all of his talent together. He started just one college season. I had him number 125 on my big board. Ty Robinson will join Fangio's deep front 7 rotation and play multiple positions. And then linebacker Smael Mondon can be a special teams demon. Quarterback Kyle McCord, a solid number 3 quarterback. Roseman has done it again, selecting solid players throughout the draft. This is really a golden era for the Eagles here that fans should be very excited about. And for Cameron Williams, I think he has legitimate first-round pick potential. This is a guy with a massive wingspan, huge size. He can play tackle. He could potentially play guard if he's too slow to play that tackle spot. Going into this draft, I talked about it. The Eagles needed some offensive line depth, and the Eagles just operate differently from other teams. Like last year, they had the top offensive line in the game. What did they do here in the draft? They took 3 offensive linemen. They believe firmly as an organization that having a stout offensive line and defensive line, the game starts, and it's won or lost in the trenches. And now they load up once again along the offensive line with some really talented players. As for Ty Robinson, yeah, in this Vic Fangio defense, depending on the front, he could play defensive end. He could play defensive tackle. He could also be a new weapon on offense if the tush-push is banned. Nebraska used him in that way a time or two. While playing for the Cornhuskers, Smael Mondon is slight, but he's an interesting player who can help you on special teams, and he can be a missile as a special teams player. For Kyle McCord, it's another developmental player for a quarterback factory. He's big. He has good size. While he doesn't really extend plays out of the pocket, he has good pocket feel and mobility. He's tough. He's a little bit of a gunslinger. He led the country last year in passing yards. He had 37 touchdowns a year ago as well. And 2 years ago, Syracuse won like 3 or 4 games. They won double-digit games last year. Big reason for that, Kyle McCord. And the local type is very cool as well. So Mel Kiper's draft grade for the Eagles comes in as an A-. I was just below that. I gave the Eagles a B grade. I thought McWilliams was a little bit of a reach. I thought Andrew Mukuba was a little bit of a reach, despite me really liking Makuba as a player. If you want to check out my draft grades video, it's up on Philadelphia Eagles now. Let's get that piece, that John, to 50,000 views. We're certainly approaching that, so go back and check it out if you haven't already done so. And with that, I do ask you this. Who is your favorite pick from this Eagles 2025 draft class? Share your thoughts with me down in the comment section right now. If you want a Jihad Campbell jersey, you can find it today, available if you go to chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. And then, of course, on top of that, plenty of jerseys that you can get. Saquon Barkley, Kelly Green, Jalen Hurts jersey with the Super Bowl patch, Cooper DeJean, all types of colors, sizes, men, women's, kids, all available. One of the top wide receivers in the game, and A.J. Brown, the aforementioned Quinion Mitchell. All thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/Eagles jersey. You use that link, and you can also get additional items from Fanatics as well. A lot of people really like this Eagles draft class. And on Daniel Jeremiah's top 150 big board, the Eagles took 6 of his top 150 players. He had Jihad Campbell ranked number 12 among his top 150 players. Andrew Makuba was at 76, so a slight reach again, according to Jeremiah as well. He really liked McWilliams, higher on him than the consensus. 91 overall ranked player for the UCF product. Ty Robinson at 103, Smael Mondon at 106, and Kyle McCord at 138. So a theme of this draft, yeah, maybe a couple of reaches, but the Eagles like those players, but they also did get some really solid value. Then there's ESPN draft analyst Jordan Reed, who said that Jihad Campbell is his best value pick in round one. He said the common phrase that we utter here on the show, Howie Roseman does it again. Campbell was my number 11 prospect, and the Eagles were able to get him after trading up one spot and surrendering a fifth-round pick. He slipped after undergoing shoulder surgery in March. Because of that, another great prospect falls in Philadelphia's lap, and I agree with that. ESPN's Matt Miller, high on the Eagles draft as well, and specifically he said we could look back on this draft as the one that continued the Eagles' dominance. Here's what he said, quote, "We'll look back on this draft as the spark that continued the Eagles' NFC dominance. The Eagles doubled down on defense, and given the team's track record of hitting on starters while also developing later rounds, it's exciting to think about what guys such as linebacker Jihad Campbell, safety Andrew Mukuba, and defensive tackle Ty Robinson can become." So a lot of draft grades that we're throwing at you. You have one from Mel Kiper, myself, analysis from Reed and Miller. Now it's time for your analysis. I always want you to have a voice on this show. Grade the Eagles draft class this year, A, B, C, D, or F.